Welcome to the Wealth by Choice podcast. My name is Valerie Shira, and I'm a stay-at-home mom who turned entrepreneur. Each week, we bring you stories and wisdom from individuals who have broken the code to generating wealth. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Let's get started. All right, today I have with me Don Spafford. Don has an education and professional background in finance and securities investing. He has had several management and leadership positions in his corporate finance career, as well as various volunteer positions. He grew up most of his life in Omaha, Nebraska, and now lives in Idaho Falls, Idaho. He bought his first property, a fourplex, in 2017. Then he began to scale into commercial real estate, including ground-up development projects, and joined Happy Camper Capital in 2021, where he and his team focus on syndicating RV resorts. He enjoys it and really enjoys providing great returns to the investors. He is also a partner in a build-to-rent multifamily group developing 600-plus unit apartment communities. He also enjoys spending as much time as he can with his family to create lasting memories. He loves to serve and help others. His hobbies include coin and banknote collecting and traveling. He's been married for over 21 years and has 4 children and is also fluent in Spanish. Don, it's great to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure. I just realized I need to update that bio. We just completed 22 years now married. So,
yeah, as the years go by and as your portfolio grows, you have to keep that updated, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the only request I have is that we don't speak Spanish because I won't know what you're saying.
No problem. Yeah, we can stay in English. It's fine. Although I'll still say even with English, sometimes I'm hard to understand because I tend to speak fast and I stutter and mumble a bit. So my English is not as easy to understand either. You might understand me better in Spanish.
Is Spanish your native language?
No, it's not. No. But I lived in Argentina for 2 years and became very fluent there. And Spanish kind of forces you to have to speak clearly to form your words. So it's. I'm probably more understandable in Spanish.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, maybe we could start by just telling me a little bit about your background, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned in that introduction, I studied finance, investment science, portfolio management. My plans and goals were to become a financial advisor or wealth advisor. Basically somebody managing people's money for investing. That was going well. I was enjoying the classes I took and the experiences I had. I was already working in the industry as it was, and I was the company I worked for at the time was going to create a hybrid position for me as soon as I graduated. That would include part time of that doing portfolio management. So everything was going great until 2008, which is I unfortunately graduated finally with those multiple degrees in the spring of 2008 because I was going part time for several years, trying to deal with family and working full time and stuff. So by the time I completed that education to start a career in that industry, the path that I wanted to pursue, all these big companies were now laying off people and going out of business because of the market crash of 2008. So needless to say, that even the company I worked for, they didn't see the need to create a position that wasn't needed when they were therefore laying off people. So I just stayed with the position I had and got through it, hoping to find something better. And unfortunately, again, there was no jobs to be found in that specific finance industry doing that type of job. The only thing, anything related to finance I could find was accounting. So I actually went back to school, got an accounting degree as well. Figured maybe in fact nothing else, I'd go and get a CPA and just follow that accounting profession. I got the degree, studied for the CPA test, but never took the exam. I decided I really didn't want to do accounting. It wasn't anything I found exciting really. So I just, at the time though, the one thing that caught my attention during the 2008, 9, 10 was all the housing market as they were coming down in prices. A good friend of mine that lived in Florida at the time was telling me about a house out there where he lived that was, the year before it was selling for, 250, 300,000 and now we're selling for 70,000. So I saw this as a huge opportunity to invest, with my mind think of like stock investing in a way. But I was like, I didn't know how to buy real estate really, other than my primary home I had. But I was not a real estate investor. I didn't know anything about it. Didn't understand it. Even in my mind at the time, I didn't even think about putting in renters in the house. I thought you just buy the house and hold on to it and wait for a few years to recover. And I was like, how am I going to pay for that? So I didn't quite have that comprehension yet of how investing in real estate actually worked. And then as time went on, I guess it got to the point where during this time we still lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and our three children we had at the time, the youngest one was starting school, and so my wife had always been a stay-at-home mom, and she wanted to now maybe start to do something, not just be sit at home and be bored. So she wanted to go work and feel productive, but we also wanted to have her have flexibility for when the kids are sick or during summer even. We don't want to send them to daycare the entire year or something. So because I guess from my perspective was more like she'd be working a job just to pay for a daycare. So basically we're paying somebody else to raise our own kids if we didn't want to do that. So in looking at options that would be out there, somewhere in the ideas came in as a realtor. So she could go and sell properties and have that flexibility of working when and where she wanted to. And luckily, she liked the idea. She likes talking to people, and she wanted to be able to help people. So she became a realtor around 2011 after our fourth child was born, actually. And then and when she first started with that, some of her very first clients were investors buying properties there in Omaha. And some of them were doing the BRRRR strategy, which I didn't, of course, understand at the time. I just thought was really cool, and they explained it to me that they were buying these properties in cash and fixing them up and refinancing to get it basically with no money down. I'm like, wow, that'd be awesome to do, but I didn't have the cash to do that. These people, one guy in particular was a lawyer. He's leveraging his lawyer firm to get a line of credit in the business and using that to buy these properties. So I was like, man, I wish I could do that, but I did not have the resources to do that. Obviously, neither the understanding to do it, but that at least got me curious and interested to want to learn more and figure out how to do this. And that's what eventually led me to buy the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. It was the very first real estate investing book I read by Gary Keller. Kind of gave me some at least ideas of how things are supposed to go and what you're supposed to do. But even with that, the premise was you got to buy a property 20 to 25% down, which I did not have that either, even at a $70,000 house. So. But I was at least was now thinking differently and starting to understand it. And by the time we were wanting to figure out how to do it and make it happen, is when we decided we needed to move actually from Omaha to Idaho to help take care of my mother. And so I kind of dropped all that, put it on hold, and focused on getting our house ready to sell and move to Idaho. And then I was actually trying to find jobs here as well, which is kind of why I was thinking, well, if I had a CPA license or something, that'd make it much easier to come here and find a job. But we decided that this was the right move for us to make, and we were a very a religious family, so we did our prayers and see how we felt that this was the right move for us to make to move to Idaho. As much as we wanted to move here to take care of my mother, was that the right thing for our family? So, but we felt it was the right thing to do. So we just kind of trusted that things would work out one way or another. So I went to my employer at the time and told them, hey, I'm moving to Idaho. Thanks. And so basically for me though, it worked out because at the time they offered to let me work from home. So I was like, yeah, I'll take that option because at least I have decent income, and not to worry about getting a job at least at first. I'll see how it goes. So I took that. I actually started working from home before we made the move, just to get the bugs worked out and things. Because this is kind of again before everybody else was doing it. Now everybody does it, but this is like 2014, I guess, when I started working from home. Moved here to Idaho in 2015. Got established here. Took about a year to get into things, and then, but I was still wanting to get back into real estate. So it was then I went to a seminar that came through town just out of curiosity to see what they were talking about. Of course, it was more, I guess, designed for house flippers. People wanted to get into house flipping, which of course was always the biggest draw from the TV shows and stuff. But I knew for me, this area where we're at, this is a small market. I was like, that's not going to work for me. I know there are people that do it, but to really be successful at it, this is not a big enough market for that. And nor did I have the resources to do that. Didn't have access to private money and that kind of stuff. So I was, but at that conference, I met a guy that told me about Bigger Pockets. And I'd never heard of it before that point. Came home that same night, looked it up, and I was like, hey, this is pretty amazing. Started listening to the podcasts and use their calculators and all that kind of stuff. So I quickly signed up for a pro membership on there. And that was really my first, I guess, real mentorship was through Bigger Pockets, just listening to all these other professionals and experienced people talking on the podcasts, the webinars, asking questions in the forums, reading the books they suggested. So all those things kind of really got me more educated and motivated more quickly. And I took advantage of working from home to listen to the podcast. I listened to probably 4 podcasts per day because I listen to them usually at 2x speed and get through multiple episodes. And I got through the entire playlist of Bigger Pockets right from episode 1 up through however many were at that time. And so, but I they did a 90-day challenge thing on there that got me motivated to buy that first property. So within a month or two after signing up on Bigger Pockets, they had this 90-day challenge to buy your first or next property in the next 90 days. So I took that as a challenge for me. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. We got to get started. And I was able to do it. I found a property in about by March of 2017. We closed on it in June of 2017. It was that fourplex, as you mentioned, that first one. Found it on Craigslist for sale, of all places, and it was an excellent property. We got in luckily right before the swell of investors that came buying everything. Because soon after that, any offer I'd make, we'd always get outbid by like 20 other offers. So we got in just the right time to get started and get that experience and motivation and the cash flows coming in to really get me motivated to want to do more. So that's kind of where everything what led me to get started and just growing from that path. You start that snowball with that first property, and then things just start to happen.
Yeah, we have so much in common. It's funny. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces of your story, but just listening to you, just from the beginning, not having any idea about real estate. Same here. We didn't know anything. We heard little bits and pieces, and it's like I always thought that something that would be nice, as maybe like a supplement, maybe something that would just kind of help us expand a little bit more off of what Jonathan's job was. And then our first one was we decided we didn't have the money to just buy a property. Same, very very similar. I mean, we're saving, but in those beginning stages, it is very hard to save up large chunks. I mean, it takes years. And we didn't have the education or the understanding to do all the fancy zero down, direct to sellers, a lot of the pace Morby stuff. We just did not know that. We didn't have that education. And so in our mind, you have to save up all this cash, and it was just years away. So we ended up for our first one flipping a house, borrowing money to flip a house, and then from that flip we got our first chunk. And it wasn't a ton. It wasn't even enough to do a big down payment, so we had to flip another one. And then with the 2 flips, we had enough, and that's what we used for our first fourplex that we bought. So much some similarities going on there.
Yeah. Well, for me, along those lines, I did not have the savings either. No, not anywhere near it. In fact, I had pretty much no savings. And even though I had a decent job, it wasn't enough to really, with a family of 6 and our expenses and medical bills and things, I would never have been able to save up money for a down payment. So what I actually discovered through those contacts on Bigger Pockets and what led me to be able to buy that first property was getting creative, I guess, in a sense, was 2 things. I found a local lender that would take a 10% down payment on investment properties. So I did not need 25%. And I found out or discovered that I could take a loan from my 401k. So I did have my 401k that had been building up for years, even though it was never huge, but it had enough that I could take a loan out and with that 10% down payment, borrow that amount to purchase that property and use the cash flows to pay back that 401k loan. And of course grow over time. So I knew at the time the rents were under market value and I could get them up. And I was going to manage it myself to save on that management fees as well, to try to save as much as possible and make it cash flow as much as possible. That's how I got started. I took a loan for my 401k and used a low down payment option. Otherwise, I would not have been able to do it.
And most people don't know that. They don't realize that they can take a loan against that, and that there are a lot of options. There really are, and it starts with education, and that's where you started. You heard a little bit, and it was like, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if I could do something like that. And 2, I didn't listen to 4 a day, but I tried to listen to, when I could, 2 a day. So, I'm a huge Bigger Pockets fan. At least I loved Brandon Turner. I loved his episodes. I was so sad when he left the show, but it was fantastic, and he added so much value. And so that's kind of where we got started with like the real estate stuff. So that's the beginning, and that's when you got into like the small multifamily. And then since then, you've kind of transitioned. Is it primarily to RV resorts, or are you kind of doing that with the ground up development? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I'm doing both. The ground up development actually happened first. Okay. But being a development process takes a bit longer. So we're not like doing dozens of them per year. So the RV campground stuff you hear me talk about more because we have lots of deal flow. We are closing on multiple deals per year. So there's more opportunities for people to find out and learn about it. The ground up stuff. So it started actually kind of going back because of Bigger Pockets. Somebody else had, some guys in my local area that were doing developments years ago. They do these build to sell projects. They build a bunch of townhomes and sell them off. They're looking for investors. They contacted a guy on Bigger Pockets who told them to contact me because they knew I was in the area and might be interested. So I spoke with them. This was like back in 2018, I think. And at the time, what they were offering was not that enticing to me. I guess they were. It was still decent returns. I think they were looking at 12, maybe 14% annual return, which is not bad. But the fourplexes I was buying at the time, I was getting more like 30% to 40% cash on cash. I'm like, why would I take 17?
Right.
So I wasn't interested, but I was like, thanks, but no thanks. And so as time went on, before I get back to that, I just in networking, I was making mostly through Bigger Pockets. I was not active on LinkedIn, not on Facebook, not any other social media at all. I was only on Bigger Pockets, and I made lots of networking with people in there, wholesalers, brokers, just to get on their email list to send me stuff. Anyway, after I bought a couple of fourplexes in Arkansas, I got an opportunity to buy some land to flip. So I got this land under contract, with zero money down for me. Found a couple partners to bring the capital to purchase it and to later flip it. And then from there was another lot down the road that I was asking if there was more lots to do something on, and not to just flip, but actually build something. So, keep it a long story short, we ended up building a commercial retail building. So not multifamily or residential. I think it's all like a 5-unit strip mall, basically for businesses. So that was my first, I guess, introduction into any real development of my own. Something I'd never done before or had experience with, but I saw the opportunity was there, and the returns actually, when I did an analysis comparing the retail to putting in like say high-end luxury townhomes there, the returns were just better overall for the commercial stuff, the retail, and so yeah, I got that going. Again, found partners to bring capital to the deal and get it funded and moving. Here we are now at this point, February 2023. That building is finally almost complete. It should be done this month. So we'll finally have it open and running. Took a long process that we had to go through a bunch of hoops for development stuff. I did not have any experience and didn't know what to expect, but we got through it. Anyway, right after that, as we got that going and started, these developers in my area came back to me, made contact again that they had another project coming up they were looking for investors on, and this time because they knew what I was looking for from what I told them before. They said, hey, this time we're looking at about a 30% annual return on these development projects that we're doing. And so I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. That's more of what I was looking for. And this was now early 2021, like maybe February 2021. I had been searching for more multifamily opportunities. I was trying to get more into that commercial multifamily value add, or even just a JV deal with some people that had capital that had contacted me that want to partner on something. I was trying to find, say a 20-unit deal or something that we could JV on. Nothing for me was penciling out. I had very high expectations for returns I wanted to see. I was not good with just a average or a mediocre type of property. I wanted to be a great deal, home run deal type thing, especially if I'm bringing in other people's money into it. And so anyway, when these guys contacted me, I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty great actually compared to what I'm seeing everywhere else. And by this point, I just barely started networking on LinkedIn and kind of growing my somewhat say social media presence, I guess. I had done 1 or 2 podcast interviews, not anything in general, just kind of telling my story at that point, which is really not that interesting, I didn't think, but people were still excited because of what I had been doing, I guess, and how I got there. And so anyway, so when these guys came to me this time around, I was like, this sounds interesting. I could probably bring you some investors into this deal as well, just to bring some more capital. Which I did. I sourced a couple of investors to bring money to the deal. And I told them now at this point, I was still looking for opportunities either to invest or even find partners. I was trying to find even partners to create a team and do syndications with, and not having luck on that aspect of either. So when these guys told about this new deal they had here, I suggested to them that I could potentially help raise capital for their deals if they want to let me be part of their team and join in with them. Because I I was probably overselling myself a bit at the time because I didn't have much of a big network or anything. But I was going to meetups, meetup events where, I now see you, Valerie, there quite often as well, and places like that. So I was making these contacts with people, and so I was like, I could probably bring some value and bring some capital. Anyway, so I got in with these guys. They said, yeah, sure, we'll let you join us and do that. And by bringing those other investors, that first deal is kind of what I used to kind of prove my value, I guess, to say, see, I do have contacts. And so as soon as that happened, like literally like within a week, this next deal came up, which was just absolutely amazing, unexpected for them and me. It was this huge development of about 800 doors. That I won't go into the full long story of how it came up, but this was an amazing opportunity. They got the deal at extremely low value for the land, and to start on this process now to do this build to rent. In fact, let me back up. It was not going to be build to rent initially. All these guys have ever done was build and sell. That's their background. That's all they know. They're developers. Their dad was a developer. They build and sell everything. So as soon as I came on board with them, I told them about I guess the benefits of not selling it. It's like, let's build these and hold them, right? Hold them for your long-term rent, hold them for more appreciation. You're going to save on your taxes. And so all these different things, they kind of realized that, this makes more sense to build these and hold these. Like, because building and selling, you're still just having a job. You got to keep building and selling for the rest of your life to keep having income. So it's like, if you can just build these and hold them, you may not have to build anymore if you do a couple of these, So that's what made that transition to build to rent. And so this project was going to be, they're going to sell the first phase of this project, about 150 townhomes, and then build and hold the second and third phases of all the other apartment buildings. And that's kind of what made that transition now, because everything we're doing with them is build to rent. We're just going to build it, bring on investors, and hold it. We're going to hold it long-term for generational wealth. Where it's not like you're in and out in 3 to 5 years, you're in it. You will get your equity, your initial capital back with it in the next, for me, 4 years or so. After it's built and then could be refinanced, but then you still hold the equity in that property for long term, for more or less life. And so anyway, so that's kind of what led me to get into that as well. And so I got into that before I got into Happy Camper Capital, just because at the time I was not seeing any other better options out there. And then eventually, as I kept searching for higher cash flow returns, because my still goal was I wanted to get more cash flow. That was my number one goal since day one, was to have that extra income just in case anything would happen to me and I couldn't work, or I one day want to leave my job and have more time freedom with my family. So I was trying to build up this cash flow. And so in trying to find that, I was not seeing the returns I needed from multifamily. Unless I had hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in several properties, which I did not have, I was like, the little bit of money I have, I got to make the most returns what I can. And so I discovered these RV campgrounds, which I heard on a podcast on To Your Pockets, right, in about June or July of 2021, and that got me interested and wanted to learn more. And so I went to webinars and follow people in that space and started just making contacts and networking with people that are doing that, just to learn more. And that my hopes was just to get my foot in the door. I didn't know anything about campgrounds or how to buy them or how to invest them and whatnot. But I was like, for where I live, I'm close to Yellowstone Park. There's got to be people that want to buy in this area. So I'm like, I could, find somebody who wants to buy here, be their boots on the ground, go take videos and pictures, watch for the property, whatever, asset manager if needed, just to have a piece of that, deal. That didn't happen, but what did happen is I met a couple guys that just bought their first property and were looking to grow their team and to do more. And they invited me to join them. And that's how I got involved with Happy Camper Capital. I came on Furnished right at the beginning after they bought their first property. And I've been out here now trying to help grow the brand and grow the I guess this understanding of the space that people, like you said, are unfamiliar with this niche of commercial real estate. And what really attracted me to it, honestly, was just the returns were so much higher than anything else I was seeing for cash flows. We typically target deals that are, let's say, between a 12 to 16% average cash on cash. Which again is probably double or triple what you see on most other commercial real estate syndications. And then on top of that, you're still getting like a 2.5 to 3x multiple. So much overall just better returns than anything else I was seeing. And so that was what really attracted me to want to learn more and to invest in this space and nothing else, just to get that, to help me reach my financial independence goal a lot sooner than later.
Oh, that's a lot to unpack there. I love your story, and I love how it's a good picture of what typically happens. You think you're going to go from plan A to plan B, and a lot of times you hear these stories of either overnight success or somebody got into wholesaling and now they're just, making a ton of money, or somebody got into real estate and they're just blown out of the water. But your story is so accurate of what really happens. It's that you gotta kind of go with the light that you have. You kind of make some moves. You start networking. You learn with the information you have, and then the next step kind of the light kind of unfolds as you take those steps, and your path kind of kept unfolding before you. And it was kind of cool because you and I were in the same mastermind for a while. I think when you were just getting into the Happy Camper, the group that you're in. And it was really cool to just watch you just blow up on social media, just constantly posting, and just watch you in that space was so exciting. And I can kind of, as an outsider, I can kind of see how, as you took those steps, the next ones kind of opened up in front of you and to bring you to where you are today.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, exactly. I tell people when I started investing in real estate, basically 5.5 years ago, right, when we closed that first fourplex, my initial plan was just to keep buying fourplexes. That's what I understood. That's what I knew. I knew I could get there doing that. But over time, as the competition got more fierce, right, I kept getting outbid by big amounts by a lot of people. And so I was like, this is not working anymore. I can't keep buying properties if I have to overpay to get them. Because that again goes against my point. I want cash flow. If I overpay, then that cash flow goes down. So I just kind of like I said, I followed the path that fell before me. I saw opportunities. I pursue those opportunities, and that's for me is what worked for me personally. I know there's people that have, they I don't know if you call them blinders on. They have that no shiny object syndrome thing, or like I'm focused on only this and nothing else, and that's fine if that works for them, go for it. But that wasn't me. I was like, if I'm not finding deals doing this, then I've got to switch and transition to something else. And when I see something comes up as to me as a great opportunity that helps me get to my end goal, then I'm open to pursuing it and taking that chance to get me there.
Yeah, I love that. Now, as far as like the RV stuff that you're doing now, are you an asset management or are you mostly just raising capital? What's that look like for you on the team?
Yeah, so I'm still primarily raising capital. That obviously everybody in any team you have to raise capital. That's kind of a constant need no matter what. You can't close deals without capital. So everybody has to constantly raise capital. But I'm kind of on the operations side of things. I'm helping with several. We're still wearing several hats, all of us on the team as a whole. As we continue to grow, we're starting to hire and fill in other positions to kind of spread out the workload a bit. But yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't say asset management. We do have one of our other partners that oversees the asset management and stuff. We do have our own management company, just to give that perspective as well. We have our own management company that oversees our campgrounds as a whole. But one of our team members oversees that particular group as well. But I'm more on, I guess, the operations side of things is, with the company itself, kind of filling our need, making contacts with lenders and other capital partners, possibly kind of overseeing the somewhat we'll call it marketing for what I do on social media and things, kind of help send that out. I send out our investor communication letters that we're now doing monthly communication, getting sent out to our investors for each property. I don't know, several other things. I'm always looking for people I think could be a resource or a benefit to our team as well, to bring on more either investor relations or acquisitions or whatever else we need to fill in. So yeah, we're still all doing a lot of different things.
Yeah. And as far as what you're saying, as far as the returns, that's very true. Unless you have large chunks of money to put in, and some do. If you're a high income earner and you have, can consistently come up with $50,000, $100,000 to put into these real estate deals, it's hard to just be passive. If you're just putting money in, you'll get there. But if not, you got to kind of either find a space to work inside the real estate or build a business that's going to help generate more cash to put in somehow. So the fact that you're in the RV park space, which has it just does. It's similar to the Airbnb and just some of these areas that have higher cash flow, higher returns, that can really expedite some stuff. So, as far as everything that you're looking for now, is there anything specific that you're looking for? Are you raising for a deal right now? Or are you looking for people to add to your team? Is there anything that you're looking for specifically that you want to mention?
Yeah, well, like I said, we're always raising capital. We do have a 506C offering right now. We have a 506C fund, so I can't talk about that. It's open to accredited investors, obviously, but it's a $25 million fund we just opened last November. The intent of this is to purchase several properties within it, with about probably five to eight properties within the fund. And the kind of the reason for that, we've always done 506B deals prior to that, every single individual property, and it can be a bit of a hassle to raise capital for multiple deals. I mean, it's one thing if you're doing like one or two deals per year. We're looking to do 6 to 8 or more per year. So doing that on an individual one-on-one basis as a 506B is very difficult to do. And so we created this fund, one, to get more word out, help us to obviously advertise and get people to come to our website and to learn more and be educated and be ready to invest when there's maybe another 506B deal available. But also for the with campgrounds, there's seasonality to it. So you always have a peak season, off season, no matter where you're at in the country, and that's totally fine for me. Again, if we're getting a 15 or 20% cash on cash, if I'm getting all of that in 1 month of the year, I don't care. That's still great money to make on it. But there are some people that kind of want that consistency of cash flow throughout the year that they're kind of more used to with multifamily, for example. So by having this fund with multiple properties in different geographical areas, we have offsetting peak seasons that's going to help stabilize that cash flow throughout the year. So that's kind of where we're working on now, is to keep raising capital for that, to close on more deals. We just closed on the first one for the fund last November. We've got 2 or 3 more that we're working on in the pipeline that are coming up to go in there. So yeah, I'm definitely open to bring people into that. What we are looking for now, I said we are actually hiring. We've made public posting for investor relations. Basically, obviously, that's mostly capital raising, we'll say, for someone that has experience doing that and can consistently raise capital on multiple deals per year. That's exactly what we need. And then, of course, just I'm looking for is general investors that want to invest with us or want to learn more about either the build to rent for generational long-term wealth building or cash flow now through investing in campgrounds.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely an exciting space, and even my husband and I think I had mentioned to you before, we're really considering doing the RV life for a little while. I don't know. We're going to take a test trip. We're going to take a couple weeks and try the RV life. I mean, there's so much of the country we want to see, and so I'm really interested in the RV space right now. If the couple weeks go well, we may take a couple months here and turn. Some people, I mean, for a couple friends who the two month turned into 2 years or something. They were out on the road. So I don't know. We're looking at it. So that space is exciting. But Don, I really appreciate you sharing your story. A very interesting story, a very relatable story, and that's what I love about it. But I appreciate you coming on and adding value and sharing your knowledge. Is there a specific way that listeners could get a hold of you if they wanted to reach out and get to know a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, definitely. You can, for one, obviously find me on LinkedIn. Just look for my name, Don Spafford, on LinkedIn. You'll see me. Probably do a Google search, you'll find me. You'll see lots of stuff there anyway. But you can find me that way, or just go to our website, happycampercapital.com. You can get a hold of me there. Go to the About Us tab. You'll find my name. If you click on that at the bottom right of the screen, you'll see a link to schedule a call with me. If you want to set up a Zoom call and then discuss more, and you can do that right there.
All right. Well, sounds awesome. Thanks so much, Don. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took the time to invest in yourself and to learn with me today. If you're interested in joining a group of like-minded people, I want to personally invite you to our free networking group where you can make connections and build relationships with people who are working together to generate wealth. Just click the link that is included in the show notes, and I hope to see you there.